Is basically that there's this group of people who have come here and sort of really quickly and automatically achieve the American dream.
That Asians are wealthy or highly educated as a whole.
Asian Americans, no matter what generation you belong to, you are a conformist and you are going to play by the rules.
Study hard, work hard, not have fun. You know, you either work in IT or you're a doctor or you're a lawyer or an engineer.
Many Americans think of Asians as a quote-unquote model minority, but there are tons of misconceptions about where that stereotype comes from and just how true it is.
What's wrong with being known as educated, hardworking, and law-abiding? The problem with positive stereotypes is the same problem with negative ones. The dominant group gets to decide what they are. It decides who gets to be a part of the favored racial group and why. What this means is that you're the model minority until you're not. Stereotypes come and go. From the beginning of significant Chinese immigration during the California Gold Rush to the present, Chinese Americans have been racialized as undesirable or desirable depending on circumstances at home and abroad. Jeremy Lin is an Asian American NBA player that most people didn't believe in before his rise to stardom during the Linsanity era. Prior to the NBA draft, Lin's speed was comparable to the number 1 pick that year, John Wall. Coaches and scouts labeled him as deceptively quick, but what does that phrase mean? People didn't believe Lin was as quick and athletic as Wall and overlooked him because he's Asian. Asians don't have a history of being NBA stars, so it's easy to see why scouts racialized him and didn't believe in his abilities. 2012 was the rise of Linsanity, and his popularity and skill gave Asian Americans a role model in American sports. Yet, Saturday Night Live made a skit about Jeremy Lin and made offensive remarks about his Asian roots. If Lin wasn't Asian, the media wouldn't have blown up his story as an Asian American NBA player. Other players that rise to stardom don't have stories that are a part of widespread media like Lin. In current demographics, the wealth gap among whites and Asian Americans is actually quite large. The wealthiest of Asian Americans may be wealthier than the wealthiest white. A large number of Asian Americans indeed fare comparatively well, while a large minority of Asian Americans struggles immensely, often more so than other racial and ethnic minorities. The fact that the typical Asian American household has a higher level of educational attainment and lower wealth than the typical white household suggests that the differences are not simply limited to age and region. Rather, these differences reflect widespread and longer-term inequality among other economic indicators, such as jobs, wages, and benefits, between Asian American subgroups. It remains that a substantial share of low-income and middle-class Asian Americans have a lot less wealth than similarly situated whites, making the model minority myth of Asian American wealth a false claim.
So I'm Gina, and today we have our lovely interviewee.
I'm Brandon.
And we're going to ask him a couple questions and about the model minority myth. So first question, Brandon, is have you ever heard of the model minority myth, and do you know what it is?
I kind of heard of it. Isn't it where it's like basically Asian parents, the kids grow up to be more like strict on they're raised to be very strict parents, and then like they push their kids to like be very successful. So yeah, isn't it like along those lines?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely. So our second question is going to be, do you believe it to be true or false? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with this stereotype? What are your thoughts?
I think it's true because everybody, they grow up into different cultures, and like I feel like every family is different based on where they live. I feel like where kids grow up, it's very important because, you know, some parents, they just in a different country, they like grew up in different values, and then from those values, when they move on to like a new one, they're not like used to like the culture, and like they teach their kids how they were raised.
Your question is, does or has the model minority affected your life in any way?
Yes, I think it definitely has affected my life. Like growing up, because I was raised in a very white community, so like being like one of the few Asians in my high school, people expected me, like, since it was a stereotype, oh, all Asians good at math or like they excel in school. In high school, definitely I was good at math, but there is some sense of like, compared to like other Asians, I wasn't like the best. And then people.
Do you think your parents add to the existence of the model minority myth? Do you think they make it true?
Yeah, I think they agree, because all my life my parents have been there. So they've definitely been the people who are the ones who are the pushers. So they're the biggest influence, because in the end, when you come home from school, right, they ask like, oh, how's school going?
Yeah.
And like they always wonder, oh, what grades did you get? So like definitely if they see like you get a bad grade, they definitely want to push you to be like, work harder, to be more successful. So in the end, I definitely think parents are.
So if we had to replace the real model minority myth, what should this myth be changed to if there had to be an idea or stereotype linked to Asian Americans?
I feel like there should not be a stereotype, because everybody's different, and people shouldn't think Asians are overachievers or like bad drivers, exactly. But like I feel, because everyone's different, you know, like I mean everyone's equal as well. So an Asian person could be as equal as like a non-Asian person, and they can excel in different ways. It just depends on how the individual themselves, on how they work, how they were raised themselves. So, yeah, I feel like there shouldn't be a stereotype, because everyone makes their own.
Right, everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone's different basically, and everyone makes their own like future.